Okay, there he is, Dominic Solanke. Let's move him over there on the computer. Okay, right. Solanke is over. Okay, Dominic Solanke to Tottenham Hotspur. Here we go from Fabrizio Romano himself. And this is a very interesting transfer from, I'd say, both sides. Now, firstly, I am very surprised this transfer does not have more pushback than it does. The Spurs fans that I have seen seem to be pretty happy with this signing, and there's a lot of enthusiasm from a lot of Spurs fans, I feel, but myself. I think 2 years ago, if you would have said Dominic Solanke would be signing for Tottenham Hotspur in 2 years' time, you would literally be laughed out of the room. Okay, now I'm just going to play a clip of mine from a YouTube video that I made, I think just over a year ago, talking about every striker in the Premier League. And this is what I had to say about Dominic Solanke. Let's go on to Dominic Solanke. Now, Solanke, I think, is one that everyone thinks is terrible. I don't think he's amazing, but every time I watch him, I don't know what it is. I think he's a decent player. Not shown enough. Not scored enough either. It's very unclinical. But yeah, I think there's talent there. I think he's a good, tidy... The way to describe Solanke is a good, neat, tidy player. If he could become a little bit more clinical, then I think he could go into the okay category as an okay Premier League striker. You can clearly see, I'm a little bit positive about him, but ultimately not really. And this is how everyone felt about Dominic Solanke. And actually, me putting him in that tier at that time, I would say was good for him. Because I don't think anyone in the world rated Dominic Solanke at the time. Because, well, he was terrible. For most of Dominic Solanke's Premier League career, he's been pretty bad. It's only the last couple seasons, the one he had in the Championship, and then the one he had last year, that he's been good. Obviously, since I made that video, which was over a year ago, he then had a full season in the Premier League, which was last year. The 23-24 season, he was excellent. I cannot deny that. He had 19 goals, and I've got it here. Let me scan through. 3 assists. So 19 goals, 3 assists. Now, I would not have seen that coming ever, that Dominic Solanke would get that many goals and be that excellent in the Premier League. I just always thought he would be a Championship player or a lower Premier League player. But last year, like I said, he was a top 3, top 4 striker in the Premier League last season. So a huge improvement for him. And truly, I was so impressed. I've always been impressed with how good he is at getting a shot away, how quick his feet are, how he's able to manipulate the ball, how he's able to bring others into play. He's always been strong. But last year, he took it to a new level. His biggest problem was always clinicalness. It was none of the other stuff. In that video, you can watch it if you want. I'll put a little eye, you can click it. The whole Dominic Solanke segment, there's timestamps on the video as well. I do say, it's everything apart from his shooting, I really rate, and every time I watch him, he's good. But it was that clinicalness, and the improvements he did make from 22-23 to 23-24. The biggest one was the shot conversion range, the goal conversion. So in 22-23, his goal conversion was 8%. That raised to 17%. In 23-24, which is, double. So that's huge. And just to give context on that stat, Son Heung-min's last year was 20%, Ollie Watkins was 22%, I believe, and Haaland was 22%. Ollie Watkins was 18%. So in terms of goal conversion, he was right there with Ollie Watkins, who was excellent last year. And I don't think Dominic Solanke was a million miles away from that level, to be fair. But he also increased his goals from heading. So the season where I rank him as, I think the tier was okay, wasn't it? He had 0 headed goals that year, whereas last year he had 4. And those improvements are really important that he's made, because you cannot sign a striker that was an 8% goal conversion rate, because that just isn't elite at all. 17% is much better. It's still not Son, it's still not Erling Haaland, which is why I do have a little bit of a problem with this signing, but it's into a good level now. There's some quality goals here that I've written down. Some of the goals that really impressed me. The first one was Newcastle at home, where he kind of latched onto a chance really quickly, and like a half volley near post finish. That was an excellent goal. The second one was Nottingham Forest away, which was one of the 4 headers that he scored. Genuinely, look it up. It's maybe the best headed goal in the entire Premier League last year. Really good goal. And Luton at home, which was literally one of the best goals of the season. It's a ridiculous goal. Again, look that one up. In fact, I'll put it in the description if you want to look at those goals. And I think with Solanke, he just looked, he looked so much sharper, so much fitter, so much quicker, I think, last year than he did in any previous years. And a lot of his goals were when Bournemouth won the ball, or he won the ball himself, and he would have to quickly make a run, a burst, or get in front of a defender, kind of like that Newcastle one. A lot of his goals came from that, and I think that's a sign of him being in peak physical condition now, reaching his prime. And concentration, I think mentally it's the best he's ever been, and obviously, like I've said, physically, to keep running in behind. He looked really quick last year doing that, beating players at the front post. Quite a few goals he scored like that as well. I think of the Man United one. There was another really good one that I can't quite remember. Might have been Arsenal. And yeah, I just think those were a lot of his goals, and that made him a really fantastic poacher for Bournemouth last season. And one of the reasons, and I was going to use this stat for my Premier League predictions, which I still will, because it's a really good point that I found, is Bournemouth from the 12th game of the season onwards last year were the 5th best team in the Premier League, points tally wise. So for, 26 games, they were the best team. They were the 5th best team, in the Premier League. And he was a massive part of that. Like, without Solanke, I won't give too many hints, but you'll see without Solanke, Bournemouth for me don't do amazing this year. He was huge for them. By far the best player, one of the better players in the Premier League, definitely one of the best strikers, like I've said, last season. Being that poacher, with those headed goals, with the concentration, with the physicalness, his quickness now, looks quicker than he ever has, really helped him score 17 goals inside the box compared to his 6 the prior season. However, I am not very keen on the move. I'm just not. Do I think he does bad for Tottenham? No. I hope he scores 90,000 goals next year. But adding Solanke to this Tottenham team, for me, doesn't do enough for Tottenham to really explode like I think this team can. There's such good players in this team. And the reason I think this striker signing was really important was because of how good I believe the rest of the Tottenham team to be. So many of these Tottenham players can challenge for a Premier League title, and you can call me in that case. But when I compare them to an Arsenal, you know, ignore the front three, but, you know, I have Vicario in there. I have Udogie in there. I have Mickey van der Ven in there. I have Bentancur or Maddison in there. And then, yeah, I have Ben White. But Pedro Porro's not far behind him. I have Saliba, but Romero really, to me, isn't far behind him. And, like, I have Rice, but then, you know, I rate Basuma. Okay, Rice is better. And, of course, you have Odegaard. But for me, Maddison's not a million miles behind Odegaard. I just think Odegaard has that little bit more panache, you know, that Maddison doesn't have. But I would take Bentancur over Arsenal's 8, which I think they'll sign, what's his name? Marino? But I would still take Bentancur. So I don't think there's a million miles in between Arsenal and Tottenham. But the front line for Tottenham has been lacking. And I just don't know if this signing pushes Tottenham to that level. I don't think so. With Solanke as well, another one of my points. Do Tottenham, who finished 5th, do we all of a sudden just push on now for top 3 with Solanke? Again, I just don't think so. You know, we finished 25 points behind Man City, 24 behind Arsenal. Does this signing close the gap? Not for me. I have some of the really poor results I think Tottenham had last year. So I have Chelsea 2, Tottenham 0, Liverpool 4, Tottenham 2, Newcastle 4, Tottenham 0, Fulham 3, Tottenham 0, Brighton 4, Tottenham 2, getting 0 points against Wolves, 0 points versus Wolves, and 1 point out of 6 versus West Ham. Does Solanke take us to a level where we avoid these kind of results? I do not think so. This feels very Tottenham to me. Very, very Tottenham. It's Richarlison 2.0. It's a bit of a risk. It's 65 million, you know, the same kind of price as Richarlison, which means it's in the middle of that, you know, cheap to super expensive, the 100 millions, 90 millions. It's in between there, which is typical Tottenham. Decent goal scorer, but not elite. And a player that won't ask for too much wages. It's just a very Tottenham signing to me. It ticks all the boxes. And yeah, this feels very Tottenham. And, you know, with our recent success or lack of, I'm not sure that's a good thing. It's quite funny, you know, we're a team, we have a stadium, £1 billion stadium with Beyonce performing, Travis Scott. But we will never go for the 90 million Ivan Toney. I'm not saying we should get Toney. I don't really know who we should get, but we won't get him because he would cost 90 million. We won't get a World Cup winner like Julian Alvarez because he costs 80 million or 85 million. We always go for those 60 million options. No, you know, they always go for the easier option, cherry pick a mid-table striker, no pun intended. It was intended. It was completely intended. I literally have it written down right here. And it has LOL in caps right next to it. So my last point is he even better than Richarlison? I don't know. I personally think if they were both fully fit for a season, I really think Richarlison has the better level. I think Richarlison has a higher level than Solanke has. Obviously, Richarlison has injury problems. Hasn't quite cut it at Tottenham. Had quite a good season last year. But, like, I don't know who's better. So what really is the point of this signing? And just another point, which I just thought of. The combined cost of these two players is roughly £130 million. We sold Harry Kane for roughly £80 million, which means we've spent 50 more million on both these players than Harry Kane, which is appalling business. I literally have nothing to say about that. other than it's appalling. And it just feels pretty underwhelming. I was expecting us to really back Ange. This is the closest we've been to challenging in a very long time, I think, or having a chance of challenging. This doesn't do that. It just doesn't. You know, Man City have Haaland. You know, what are you going to do with Solanke? I guess there aren't really many world-class strikers about in today's market. Funny enough, that is exactly what my last video was about. The current football landscape and why or how there aren't any or many world-class players around anymore. Why not check it out? Creators always ask for likes, but I genuinely would prefer comments, especially on a video like this. I'm very intrigued if you're a Spurs fan, not a Spurs fan. What is your opinion on this signing? Are you disappointed? Are you happy? Are you over the moon? If you are, I'd say calm the fuck down. If you did enjoy it though, yeah, a like and a subscribe would be much appreciated. And thank you very much for watching.